move on to our science critic. Okay, and this fellow, he thinks that an explanation is just a description. And so many people believe that. In fact, all of mathematical physics, on the one hand, they say, well, it's not a description, it's not an explanation. Then they say exactly the opposite. They say, yeah, the explanation in the end is just a bunch of descriptions. So they haven't figured out the difference between an explanation and a description. This is the problem. Okay, so let me turn this fellow loose so that you know what the issue is. Here it goes. Pay attention. The issue to be addressed in this rebuttal is a description the same as an explanation?
Now, another thing that I take issue with that he said is science only explains, it doesn't describe. Well, I'm sorry, but a description can be an explanation. The only real difference between a description and an explanation is a description is describing how something is. An explanation is answering a question. So if you ask the question of why is the sky blue, you'll receive an explanation of Rayleigh scattering. But Rayleigh scattering is a description of what's happening there, and that description explains why the sky is blue.
Okay, so he gives this example of Rayleigh scattering, and so if you look it up, you'll find the same thing that I found, and I found it in hyperphysics. Here it is. And here you can see the difference between a description and explanation, which this fellow did not understand. I mean, on the one hand, he says, look, one answer is a question, but it's like he didn't listen to what he was saying. Okay, so here it is. This is description, and this comes all out of the same place. Rayleigh scattering refers to the scattering of light off of the molecules of the air and can be extended to scattering from particles up to about 1/10 of the wavelength of the light. So far, all we have is a description. We have no idea why the sky is blue so far. Okay, all they're saying is that molecules scatter light. That's a description. Right now, we have no explanation of anything. Now comes the explanation of the mechanism, of the cause, okay, of what? Of why the sky is blue. It is Rayleigh scattering off the molecules of the air which give us the blue sky. And now you can go into more detail and say, look, this is the explanation of why, what causes the sky to be blue. But you cannot go with the first paragraph there and say, oh, that explained it, explains why the sky is blue. So you can see a little bit of a difference here, and this is just in general terms, just so you can see the difference between a description and an explanation. Like he says, an explanation answers a question, a description does not. But he doesn't understand what he said. Okay, this is so you wonder about his mental state or what is going through that, through between his ears. He's got very little to block the information that's going through there. Anyways, here, let me give you an example. Okay, another example. This is referring to the rope. Okay, here it is. Here's a picture or a movie, right, of two atoms bound by the rope. So far, you have no explanation. So far, all we've got is a description. It's an illustration, and you can say, okay, two atoms, they're apparently expanding and contracting, and there's a rope between them. That's a description so far. Unless I give you some background, talk it behind, and tell you what you're staring at, what this is all about, you won't have any idea that that rope torquing there is supposed to represent light. Okay. Now, I constantly say that you need to make movies of your physical interpretations. Okay, because if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a movie is worth 1,000,000 words. Okay, so keep that in mind. But the issue here is very simple. I'm on the one hand giving you a description of the mechanism, but unless I tell you what I'm trying to explain, what I'm trying to answer, you will not have an explanation. All you will have is a description. Okay, mathematics can only describe. An equation is only a description of a dynamic situation. That's all an equation is. So all you have is a description. If you want an explanation, you won't find it in mathematics. You'll have to go to physics. And that's where the problem is, because the mathematicians have united or extrapolated mathematical concepts into physics and purport to explain how this universe works by using mathematics, by using equations. But again, all that is a description. Both of them are how something works, meaning how it works in the sense of how fast it works, how much time. That's different than saying how it works, like what is the mechanism. Those are two different hows. It's like if here you're talking about the why, and by why I don't mean purpose and reason, I mean cause and mechanism. So in that sense, the why is not a how. Okay, and so those hows and whys, they get them mixed up constantly. That's the big problem. So, anyways, no, an explanation is not a description, and a description is not an explanation. Explanation answers a question. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is the answer to his rebuttal. Okay,